Alrighty. What day is it? It is Thursday, May 29th. Holy shizzle. Thursday, May 29th. What's going on? We got a mail strike still. But, so later on today, we're going to take Chippy. Oh, guess what? Chippy is in first place for that Junior Rangers competition. I'm pretty sure it has something to do with a lot of his fans out here, right? So that's pretty cool. I'm not fully familiar with all the rules of the schedule, but I guess this voting volley was to knock out a bunch and get into the top 20. So I guess after that goes down, who knows? I don't have any clue how this works. Is it going to go to the top 5 or something? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. So if you come across the request for votes, I think we're topped up for getting him in the top 20. I think he's made it. So anyway, he's going to be in the next round, and I guess maybe then we'll have to be called upon Chippy's fan base to throw down some votes again for the next round. And I don't know, so what? So it's going to be 20 getting voted in, voted again. I haven't a clue what that'll be breaking it down to. Then what, the top 3 or something? Don't know. Top 10? I don't know. We'll find out. I'll keep you posted. That's pretty cool. Exciting for the parents. So yeah, we're going to take off later on today to the boat with Chippy, Sarah, the dogs. Full-on gong show. Stay overnight and see if Chippy can't catch himself his first salmon tomorrow. That'll be pretty exciting. And then after that, myself and another buddy of mine, a guide, we're going to fish the shit out of that boat and all our spots and get ready to go for upcoming guests who are coming from here in a few days. Figure out what's working, where they are, and what to do. And as well, along the way, we're going to stop and show Chippy some outdoor stuff, maybe. Check some trail cameras or something. That's the plan. Now, voices to be heard. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. I don't know if I read this or not. We're going to find out. It's a short one. Nihatlatch, possible encounter. That'll be British Columbia. Hello, Steve. I found your YouTube channel while trying to figure out what I heard late one night camping at Skaukum Campground on Nihatlatch Lake, BC, last Labor Day long weekend. It was our last night and the fire ban had just been lifted. Our group of 4 stayed at the fire until about midnight, 1 a.m. I stayed and watched the embers burn down for a bit before dousing the fire and hitting the sack. I couldn't quite fall asleep. Too much caffeine, I'm thinking. It was about 3:30 in the morning when I heard this huge bellowing roar that sounded like it came from just outside my tent. I heard no footsteps or activity, and the roar was repeated. The sound was unlike any animal or bird I've ever heard before. I don't know how, but my wife slept through it, as did my brother-in-law in the neighboring tent. And his wife was asleep in their car near to our tent to get some peace and quiet from her husband snoring. Okay, I did read that. Sorry, you guys. No big deal. I did read that. Okay. Why? Oh, is there a typo when I tried to mark it as red? What a dumbass. That's all right. Here we go. Mark this as red. The U.S. Cascades. I need to stay anonymous. To protect a family member's wish. He sent me a link to your channel. I do like to know how you treat this. I do like how you treat this without the BS. All right, I got you, man. It starts in 1984. I just went to Seattle to crew on my second cousin's boat towards the end of the season. He asked if I would like to spend some time at his brother's place in the mountains. And he was like you, Steve, an outdoorsman. He had a group coming up for a hike up there in a couple of days. Well, to keep this short, there was 10 people plus my cousin and a hired hand and myself. We left very early in the morning, about midday. We all stopped for lunch and a break. And at that time, my cousin came over to me and told me to come with him. We went over to where his help was and told us something is tracking us. Okay, there's no periods in here at all right? A few commas, but no periods. To explain my awkwardness, if I have it. My thought was, how the hell do you know that? I'm from Nebraska and I've never hunted. This is all new to me. We got to the place we were going to camp for the night. Set up tents and ate. It was getting dark quickly, and everyone called it a night except my cousin. He struck me as very nervous. And a little after I fell asleep, there was a loud knock that woke me up. And then I was told to get my ass out there and get the rifle. And that's when the noises and the rocks started. Everybody woke up. They were harassing us. They were all around us. There had to be at least 4 of them. And the god-awful smell. I never smelled anything like that. It made a skunk smell good. Excuse me, just had breakfast. My cousin told, grab what you need, we're leaving in the middle of the night. It's hard to navigate that trail in places in the daylight, and I'm thinking this is stupid, but he insisted we had to go now. We left the tents and lots of other stuff and started back. They were on our heels until morning. I asked him who the guys were, and he told me to shut up and never talk about it. Well, he passed 15 years ago, and we never did talk about it. His wife divorced shortly after this incident and took the kids with her. Well, I just forgot about it until my wife... What? I just forgot about it. I did tell my wife, and all she did was laugh. Called it a ghost story. And after all these years, his son decided to move his family there with all the crazy crap going on. Seattle. He is the one that messaged me and bring back the memory of that night. He wanted to know who or what these people are. All I can tell him, nobody's been there in years and your dad was scared of them. I can't tell you exactly where this place was. It's been so many years. And in the woods, I lose all sense of direction. It was a long drive from the boat to get there, and I don't ever want to go into that forest, any forest. I would take a storm in the Pacific Ocean in a small fishing boat any day. There you go. Welcome to the club. Yeah, the fright and the terror that accompanies many is over the top. Explained to us quite clearly from our combat veterans, especially, right? Speak the devil. Excuse me. This next one is titled Thoughts. Appreciate that email, man. Anybody who you have come across you and ask what's going on, just send them here. Tell them to listen to as many people as they can. This is titled Thoughts. Hi, Steve. I started this email a half a dozen times. I was listening to you and a person you were hunting with waiting for a plane. You talked about how most people are very busy to put the time in. I get that. I'm the CEO of my company that was just me in 2018 and now north of 80 employees. I'm pretty busy. I was going to say good for you and not so good, right? Goodbye freedom. To a point, but good for you. I have 2 master's degrees and at one time was applying to the mission specialist program on the space shuttle. I'm well educated. I have a lot of life experience. I also played football in college, and although now retired, I stay in great shape so I can pick up my grandchildren one day. I served in the U.S. Marine Corps for 25 plus years. My last 5 in special operations. I quit, retired, before I was permanently behind his desk in the Pentagon. No, thank you. I have 6 combat tours, including the 1991 Gulf campaign. Not every tour is intense. It's not like the movies. A lot of the time is spent preparing and training. I was wounded 2 times, so I'm a 2-time loser. It doesn't happen like people think. My wounds were very minor. Indirect fire both times. Rocket attacks. You just decide, if it's my time, and you go about your business. Actual combat is very surreal. And I bring this up because I've heard you read from other combat vets and about being scared. The thing is that you know what you're supposed to do in those situations, and if you don't do well, that is a leadership failure. If you don't, well, that's a leadership failure. I was never scared when bullets or rockets were coming in. I always knew what to do. In other instances, we were doing hits. I worked in Afghanistan with the SAS and Green Berets. You have to be very calm. The adrenaline is pumping, but you have to be under control. Lives are at stake. I say all of this to say this. I think the guys who have come face to face with Bigfoot, etc., don't know what they're dealing with, thus the fear. Fear of the unknown. In special operations or any military operation, you work hard to ensure every unknown is a known. You plan for contingencies and how to respond. I think those who have seen these things for the first time, well, I get the terror. They don't know how to respond. Now my story. In 1977, I lived outside Augusta, Georgia. My dad was a soldier assigned to Fort Gordon. We lived in a new housing development, and there were at least 20 acres of woods all the way to the highway that bordered Fort Gordon, Georgia. Today it is all houses. HUD. Housing. And the trees and forest are all gone now. In the spring of 1977, there was a spring and a creek behind our house with about a quarter mile away in the woods. There's a small bluff that overlooked the creek/spring, and me and my younger brother used to love to go down to skip rocks and shoot at frogs with our slingshot, kid stuff. One day we were doing that, fixated on hitting one particular bullfrog, and I got the distinct feeling something was watching us. It was about 4 p.m, a very sunny day. I smelled something like rancid garbage. I looked up on the bluff to my left and saw it. It had to be 8 feet tall, and the sun was illuminating its hair around its head, kind of reddish brown. I turned to my brother, and he was already running. I dropped my slingshot and followed him. We sprinted back to our home, freaked out and scared. I also had pissed myself. My dad had just come home and we were crying and scared. We told him what happened, and he went back with us. And was also mad I dropped my slingshot since I begged him to spend $20 on it. The slingshot was still there, and there were very large footprints in the mud. I couldn't tell you how big. The big bullfrog was gone, by the way. And we went up to where it was, and there were impressions. No footprints, as there was a lot of pine needles and leaves. That was another thing. I never heard it walk up. I realize now that if it wanted to do something to me or my brother or catch us, it could have. And another thing is, my brother never talked about it, and to this day doesn't remember or refuses to remember. He never said anything about me peeing my pants. My dad, however, believed us. I will say, whenever I bring this up, yes, people make fun of me. I honestly don't know what these things are, and at this point, I don't care. I know what I saw, and I believe. And like I said, I have 5 combat tours. I've seen some very, very, very interesting things, especially having worked in special operations, prosecuting the war on terror in Afghanistan. I've seen lights in the sky, etc. Once on a plane ride over Alaska, it was a chartered flight carrying Marines back from Japan heading to California. I woke up sitting by the window and looked out into the dark, and there it was off the wing of the airplane at a distance. One other thing. I was turned on to your channel while watching the former U.S. Navy SEAL John Bolin tell stories. Your channel was also suggested. I also watched The Missing 411, and after listening to, quote, Mr. Bolin, yourself and Dave, I think that perhaps the Bigfoots, or whatever they are responsible for many of the missing people in the national parks. How else can anyone explain how people can disappear from one area and be found miles and miles away across rugged terrain? And by the way, Dave talks about how when the people are found, their shoes and boots are off, or they don't have their pants. One thing you do when you take a prisoner is to remove their footwear so they cannot escape on foot without tearing their feet up. You also remove anything that may allow them to escape, such as pants. That was the thought I had. Whatever is taking people knows to remove shoes and pants, etc., so they can't escape. Anyway, this is too long. I appreciate your channel and that you are point blank about this. Note, attached picture of me in Afghanistan in 2012. If you ever meet a U.S. Marine, show him my picture and ask him if he has a Marine uniform. You see, Marines aren't allowed to wear another service uniform unless you are doing something that warrants it. Joe. Okay, man, appreciate it. I don't have the photo. I guess I've got it in my inbox, but this is how the photos show up in my notes saved on the phone. Don't know why. But I appreciate that email, man. I don't know. It's debatable what's taking human beings in the forest, right? It's debatable. We did have, one time I did have a woman. We did have a lady who has been in contact with these beings, allegedly. And she was in contact with Dave as well. And allegedly, she said that she spoke with these people, the forest people, when it came to that boy that they found with no shoes and everything. He was way the hell up on the mountain, died of exposure. And allegedly, a couple of these people told her via the telepathy thing that it was two of them that took that boy, and not intentional, and realized they had screwed up when they took him up there with them, and he died. And they said they also informed Dave about that, and he never commented. So I don't know. I haven't a clue. Don't know. That's all I heard on that one, though. Take from what you will or leave it. I don't know, you guys. I wasn't there. I didn't have any telepathy. I never have. But I can't say which way. I don't know. From what I understand, the true threat for taking people comes from up there, is the word on the street. That's all I know. What's this? Did I just mark this as red? Okay, no I didn't. All right, here we go. A not so normal hike. Title of this email to all of you. I want to share a scary event that happened to me and my dog. All right, share away. It was a beautiful summer day in Germany, and I decided to hike through our local forest and test the range of my walkie-talkies. I gave one to my dad and took one with me. I was just jokingly going to say, so I gave one to my dog. I'm just kidding. I gave one to my dad and took one with me. The plan was to go 5 kilometers into the woody hills, and then I would call him. I decided to take a new route and discover parts of the forest I've not explored yet. My dog, 1-year-old, was excited and walked ahead on the rocky path. The way we took went through an area with young trees. Multiple times I had the feeling of catching a glimpse of a shadow following in the corner of my eye in the undergrowth to my right. I played it off as an illusion and thought to myself, if something's sneaking around here, my dog would be alarmed. I kept on going. And like 1 minute later, my dog stopped, lifted her tail, and barked really quietly. Bracket, never had that happen before, and the fact that I somewhat predicted my dog barking made me nervous and thought maybe it wasn't an illusion, end bracket. Confused, I went up to her and looked what she was upset about. I couldn't make out any danger, but she kept barking really quietly, almost whispering with a really focused look. And suddenly I had this cold shivering down my spine. I got goosebumps, and my heart started to beat very fast. I still couldn't make out any danger with my eyes, but out of reflex, I pulled out my knife and checked the surrounding area. My dog pulled his tail between his legs and started to whine and went behind me and only kept peeking at this direction. Then the walkie-talkie in my backpack turned on and started to make weird noises. I don't know if my dog got scared more about the noises from the walkie-talkie or by what we both could feel, but she started to bark. Obviously wanted to leave. So, taking out my walkie-talkie, I was baffled. They got turned on and played different voices talking to me in an unknown language. My first impression was Russian or Slavic language. I tried to call my dad, but I was inside a small creek valley, so I told myself, if I can't transmit or receive anything out of the valley, these voices have to be sent from somewhere in here. And suddenly my legs started moving and I ran without consciously telling myself to move. It was like I got controlled by my subconscious mind to go now and not stop. The fear vanished as I reached the open field and got control of my surroundings again. And since then, I'm genuinely afraid to go into any forest without my dog, and I can still feel the fear. When thinking about it too long, I start to daydream and reliving it, and wake up like 5 minutes later in my chair, bathed in sweat. I told my circle of friends and acquaintances about this, but apparently not everyone experiences such things. Maybe this sixth sense, like a subconscious yell, get out, combined with the cold feeling in your spine and the goosebumps and every hair in your body feeling electrified, is just given to a few people out there, and not everybody has it in the same intensity. Yeah, I think so. I had this sixth sense kick in before, but never this harsh. I'm going to visit this place in the next few days and fight my fear. It happened summer 2017 in Bavaria, Germany. At this time, I was 19 years old. If you experienced a similar event or have any idea what happened, please feel free to post under this comment. Have a nice day. All right, there you go, you guys. Bavaria, Germany. So I'd imagine there's a lot of people from Germany here. And if you, we have had people email from Germany in the past. People on a boat tour, actually in that big river. They seen one from the boat. But if you have, and you're from Germany, email us or throw down the comment section under this video, right? Appreciate that email, man. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. University-trained ecologist experience. Steve, I'm writing this to you because I've told absolutely no one, nor do I intend to tell anyone about what happened to me nearly 8 years ago up in British Columbia. Excuse me. After high school, I pursued a degree in biology and went further to subspecialize in forest ecology and species conservation. I've always had a close relationship with the Squamish Nation community as I grew up in North Vancouver and made frequent trips with them into their territory, both for my passion and education benefit. I was as well within reach of a master's degree, and then it happened. I was out by myself on a trail in the late fall. I cannot bring myself to disclose where exactly. When I felt an absolute dread come over me to the point of almost paralyzing my body. I knew never to ignore this evolutionary installed feeling in all of us that comes from a time when we were once legitimate prey animals. Oh, we still are. Go camp out where there's polar bears. It'll be a quick, easy reminder. I calmly paused and scanned my surroundings, stopping at a large old-growth tree that to me looked a little different. I stared at it for a moment when I realized that there was a motionless shoulder and part of an arm sticking out from behind it. The muscles gave the arm away. I refused to move or turn away until I was sure that it was either an illusion or something else. And after what felt like an eternity, I took 2 steps forward, and to my absolute horror, whatever was behind the tree moved. Whatever it was stepped to the side and looked right at me for a moment before walking off into the dense forest. I was aware of Sasquatch, but I dismissed it as First Nations folklore and respected it for what it was, mythology and culture, not an actual species. I suppose that's why I had the courage to walk towards it, because in my mind, as a university-trained ecologist, it didn't exist. In my mind, I was simply seeing an oddly shaped tree, period. The encounter is not that exciting, and I won't bother describing the thing, as I'm sure you and your listeners already are well aware what they look like. The 20-second encounter wiped out my university education, shattered my passion for the Pacific Northwest, and left me in pieces. Well, that's unfortunate. I fully understand the wiped out my university education, right? Now that you know you've been miseducated to the core, right? Excuse me. Was I really going to pursue a career knowing that these things may exist? How could I listen to another lecture on zoology or write an exam or publish a paper knowing that there is a potentially huge piece missing? Was I going to risk accidentally saying something or having it slip out one day many years down the road and have all my work, my education, and my contributions utterly obliterated and discredited? The answer is no. I quickly changed the course of my life and completed a degree in nursing when I was 27. I'm now 31 and working in one of the main trauma hospitals in Metro Vancouver. And I don't know what I saw, and I wish I never saw it. But it wasn't a bear, wasn't a wolf, a cougar, or a man in a costume. I can go into a lot more detail, but time is precious and I don't want to be greedy and take up too much of it. Please don't use my name. Even after writing this email, I feel like I just worked on a 12-hour shift in the trauma bay. Know that what you do does help. It certainly helped me. I know if you want to see a better caribou recovery, then advocate for less logging and habitat destruction. And if you want to see a better caribou recovery, then advocate for less logging and habitat destruction. Logging tends to leave really nice / neat highways that predators like wolves use to turn almost every hunt into a successful one. They are a symptom of the much bigger problem of caribou decline, which is deforestation. Be safe. All the best. Thank you again for being selfless and taking time out of your life to help others heal theirs. All right, man. Gotcha. Appreciate that email. And the note at the end. And a quick note for you on the end that a handful of years ago, I made a video that went quite viral. I believe it's called I Killed 200 Wolves. And I think I used David Suzuki's face for the thumbnail. Because at the time I was going at him. Like CNN reporters trying to get a hold of me, CBC News reporters trying to get a hold of me when I was encouraging the whole province to thin out the blowing up wolf population that we caused from just what you stated. So yeah, I'm already on it. Been on it for a long time, actually. But appreciate that note. Unfortunately, I'm sorry about the outcome and what it did to you. I wouldn't even begin to... Squamish Nation, I'm guessing you're probably up the Squamish Valley without a doubt. And as we all know, even before the road in the Squamish Valley turns to gravel, there's been nothing but ongoing experiences, interactions with people the whole way. The Sea to Sky, the whole thing. Gambier Island, all the islands. Seashell, everywhere, right? Everywhere. Yeah, so secrecy on the exact locations, not really no big deal here in BC, man. They're everywhere in BC. You know, Sarah's ex-father-in-law was delivering van loads of newspapers from Vancouver all the way to Pemberton. I don't know if it was every night or every few nights, I forget, but by the time he got to Pemberton, it was like 2 in the morning or something like that, and he's seen these people on the Sea to Sky Highway 3 different times in the middle of the night driving up there. I don't know how many people I know that have seen them just in the Sea to Sky Highway between Squamish and Whistler. And this, of course, is right smack dab where I hunt deer every year like a maniac. And where I film the lights. And on and on and on. I'll stop babbling. Appreciate it, man. Hope you're still watching. And I'm glad that it gave you that big heads up of what's going on in the education system, right? It's not about truth, that's for sure. That is for sure. Ooh, this is a big, long one. I'm going in. It won't get read by itself, right? This is titled Experience. All right, here we go. Hello, Steve. It's taken me a while to gather the intestinal fortitude to put this in print, but maybe my experiences will help somebody else understand these beings. I genuinely appreciate your no bullshit approach to this subject, and I've enjoyed listening to your take on the reports of so many people on your channel. My experience is probably very much like many you have heard before, and to be honest, if I didn't know me, I would say that I was full of shit. The two friends that I have trusted with this story believe me because they have both bled with me. But they both advised that I not tell another soul or they would think that I was batshit crazy. It is for this reason and several others that I would prefer that my name and current location remain confidential. I got you, man. Let me tell you a little about myself first and the situation that I found myself in at the time that all this occurred. I'm 73 years old, retired and living in Texas. I was raised in one of the largest cities up north, so other than going to summer camp, I really didn't have a lot of experience outdoors. I learned how to shoot at my local boys club, and I really wasn't very adventurous as a kid. I went into the Army in the mid-60s. I joined Special Forces and was fortunate enough to be surrounded by some of the finest professional soldiers in the world who taught me how to be, quote, good in the woods, end quote, and to face and overcome my fears when they presented themselves. I spent 22 months in Southeast Asia running cross-border recons and was involved in a number of pretty hairy ops during my time in the country. I was fortunate to return home with all my fingers and toes, but I also came home with a highly developed sense of skepticism for just about everything that I couldn't see, touch, or taste. After the military, I spent several years as a contractor around the world, so all in all, I'm not unfamiliar with dangerous and stressful situations, and I think that I deal with them pretty well. My time in combat was not without scars, both mental and physical. So not long after I got out of the military, I found myself unemployed, drinking way too much, and unable to accept the fact that who I was and what I had done for my country didn't mean squat to the citizens in the so-called real world in 1970. This is hard to deal with. I desperately needed to get away and sort my shit out. I figured that in order to get right, I would need to disappear for a while. This sounds familiar. This could have been one read back in the day, but it was marked as unread in my inbox, okay, you guys? So after quite a bit of searching and going over topo maps, I selected an area in Canada, the exact location of which will remain with me for reasons that I think you will understand later. It took a little over 2 weeks to trek from Turner Lake to that area that I selected. It was a ways to the north of the Clearwater River. And the area is best described as foothills and pretty heavily forested. I selected my campsite based on the recommendations of a very helpful local native man. He pointed out the location on a map for me, and he advised a spot on the hill overlooking a small lake. He cautioned me to stay to the west side of the lake because anything on the east side of the gravel beach was sacred ground. I agreed, shook his hand, told him how much I appreciated the information and promised not to set foot on any sacred ground. And I thanked him and set up for the spot he described. I didn't read this. We didn't have GPS or cell phones back in 1970, so basic land nav and my trusty Lensmatic, I found the place I was looking for. The location was incredible, just as he described it. And after seeing it, I was certain that I'd been given permission to set up in my new native friend's personal spot. There's a clear, cold running brook nearby, had the sweetest water I think I'd ever tasted. And after looking around a bit, I set about pitching my camp in a shallow cave, sheltered by the overhang of a south-facing cliff. The campsite was and secure as hell, naturally concealed by undergrowth, high and dry and easily defensible. I couldn't have asked for a better setup. I was able to make the camp reasonably comfortable, having made a bed, a chair, and a small table. All right. I've been there about a month by this time. Wow. And for the first time in quite a while, I was feeling pretty secure. Small game was plentiful, and the fishing was outstanding. There's all sorts of edible plants and tubers. And I was losing the alcohol weight while my body and mind were settling down. Basically, I was getting right again. That's awesome. Something I learned early on was something that I should have known anyway. Never clean my fish or game in or near camp. The place was loaded with black bears, and they had a bad habit of nosing around camp after looking for scraps, so I was constantly on the lookout for them. And bright and early one morning, I grabbed my fishing gear and a high standard HD that had somehow found its way into my duffel bag. What is that? I figured, it's a pistol. I figured that the pistol would come in handy just in case I ran into a rampaging squirrel. Properly equipped, I started down to the lake. Camp is about 100 feet higher in elevation than the lake and maybe a quarter of a mile away. But the slope was gentle and easy to negotiate, and besides, the walk down offered a commanding view of a shallow cove at the north end of the lake and the surrounding forest. I'd made it about halfway to the lake when, through a gap in the trees, I saw a dark, furry lump in the water about 20 feet from shore. The shoreline was nothing but gravel and rocks along that cove, and the water was very shallow to about 100 feet out. I figured that the lump was one of the black bears that roamed the area, so I kept my eye on it while quietly making my way down to the water, trying to keep the trees between me and him until I got closer. I was pretty leery of the bears around camp since the native man had told me that something about this particular group of bears made them more aggressive than most. Plus my knuckle-headed mistake of cleaning my fish in camp. There was a slight quartering breeze straight out of the north, and it was blowing in my face as I slipped down the hill. And my intention was to catch my breakfast and egress without disturbing this guy if I could. Still, a little uphill of where he sat, I tried to range the distance between us, and I would guess it to be about 150 yards or so. And as a result, the lump was just that. Not much detail at all. The color of his fur reminded me of a nutria or mink, and the sunlight reflected off of it as he moved. It seemed darker near the spine and neck, but not remarkably so. I could tell that he had his back to me and seemed to be preoccupied. Busy doing something in the water, as if cleaning something. I finally crept down behind some bushes, maybe 60 or 70 yards away, and I wished that I brought my binoculars with me so I could have seen more detail, but even at this range, I was beginning to doubt that the lump was a bear because of the size of this guy. Keep in mind that I'm a trained observer, and now that I was at the same level as he, my general sense was that he was huge. Almost all of the big black bears that I had seen up to this point were probably 350 to 450 pounds or so. My first impression was that he was easily double that. His back and shoulders were broad, very unlike a bear. And instead of sloping away from the head and neck like a bear, this guy didn't look like he had a neck. And his shoulders looked twice as wide as the body. And from what I could see of the upper arms, they were huge. Unlike so many reports I've heard since, this guy did not look like he had a cone-shaped head. It may have been a little pointed at the back, but it wasn't exaggerated. And I swear, the feeling that came over me at that moment was something I had never felt before. A tingling started at the base of my neck and spread across my back and shoulders, down my arms and legs, and caused me to shudder for a second. Beside the involuntary fight-or-flight response, it almost had me ready to bolt. Every hair on my body was standing on end, and I had a terrible sense of, oh shit. because I knew that I was looking at something that I had never encountered before. I sat as quietly as possible, comfortable in the knowledge that whatever this was, he was unlikely to wind me, since I had the wind in my favor. I knew that I did not need to be I knew that I did not need to be starting any shit with this thing, whatever it was. I watched him go about his business, whatever that was, for what I think was about 10 or 15 minutes. Holy shit. Then unexpectedly, a very large, long arm and hand extended to his right side to support himself as he rose to his feet. And it looked like he must have been sitting cross-legged. I remember that when he stood up all the way, that his hips were just about as broad as the torso. It didn't look like he had a waist at all. His legs were heavily muscled. Stout is the best adjective I can come up with. Like a power lifter. And water was dripping from his coat, ? I'm guessing the hair on his arms was at least 8 or 9 inches long and hung down like an oversized sleeve. It was thick. I wasn't able to see skin beneath the hair, at least not from that distance. And he didn't shake the water off like a dog, but rather just stood still for a moment before starting to walk away from me. I was stunned, and I started to shake. It screwed me up when I realized how frightened I actually was. I remember thinking about how ill-prepared I was for this fight. All I had was a .22 pistol, and considering the size of this guy, I had the feeling of being totally outmatched. I knew that if this thing decided to turn and fight, I was screwed. I had nothing to scale him against, but when he stood, I could tell that he was at least 2, maybe 3 feet taller than I am, and I'm 6 foot. I kept calling it a him, but in reality, all I ever saw was his back, so there was no way to determine the sex of the creature. He never turned toward me, and I never saw his face. But I had the feeling that he was aware that I was there, as he started to walk off towards the opposite tree line, which was about 50 or so yards away. His stride was long and even, uninterrupted by the just over ankle-deep water he was moving in, and he never made a sound that I could detect, which surprised me since he was so damn big. And I promise you that on my best day, even in silent mode, I still make some noise, and I was only about 210 pounds at the time compared to who knows how much this guy weighed. All I could hear was the crunch of the gravel underneath his feet once he was out of the water. His movements were almost graceful, with his right arm swinging naturally. And as he walked away, I noticed that it looked like he had something cradled in his left hand because he held it curled in toward his body as if to support whatever it was. I say this because even though I never saw that he was carrying anything, his elbow and arm kind of cocked out away from his body, and that arm did not swing with his gait. He didn't seem to be in a hurry, but man, he covered the distance to the tree line. I would guess about 50 yards in short order before stepping into the trees. He was gone. I sat dead still, waiting and listening to the forest sounds. There weren't any. And for about 10 minutes, it was dead quiet, until I finally heard a squirrel barking. Until I finally heard a squirrel barking some distance away to my left. I sat still and waited, scanning the tree line, hoping to see him again, but he never showed. I slowly, quietly made my way back up the hill to my camp, taking a circuitous route and watching my six like the tail gunner I was trained to be. The hair on the back of my neck was standing straight up as I made my way up the hill, and being cautious, I spent the night high in a tree just outside of my camp to see what might visit me at that night. Nothing did. I didn't see him again while I was there, but I had a sense that I was being watched any time I went down to that part of the lake to fish, so I moved my activities further down the shore to distance myself from that little cove. I was there about 9 months, And during that time, my native friend visited my camp on 3 separate occasions to check on me. I was camped within a couple of miles of a provincial park, and he let me know where I should and shouldn't go, as well as bring me some eggs and coffee. I was hesitant to tell him about my encounter, but did eventually. He listened as I related to what I had seen, and then asked me if I had gone to the other side of the lake looking for him. I told him that I hadn't, and he was pleased and said, "That's good, because that side of the lake is where the old man lived, and he didn't like other people in those woods." I assured him that I hadn't gone anywhere close to that side of the lake, and he assured me that as long as I stayed on this side of the lake, that he wouldn't bother me. But if I saw one of the young ones, that I was not to look at them directly, but to avert my eyes and slowly leave the area and let them be. And then he asked me if the old man had taken anything or left me a gift, and I told him that I had seen evidence that someone had investigated my camp because items had been moved, but replaced as close as possible to where they were picked up. But I told him that I was pretty sure that he had never left anything for me. And he seemed to be satisfied that the old man had accepted me and that I was not here to cause problems and would never bother me, which frankly pleased me to no end. No doubt. I'm not sure that his opinion reassured me much, but I was determined to stay there anyway. Wow, good for you, man. I went about my daily business, and I don't remember ever getting that F me feeling again while I was there. But still, every now and then, I would hear a whoop, whoop, followed by a short pause, and then a third whoop call just before dark from down near the cove. And a couple other times I heard a rapid clicking sound like a raccoon might make, but much louder and deeper in tone as I walked through the woods. But that was about it. And the night before I left, I swear that I heard somebody murmur something to me while I was sitting at the fire. The sound was close, like maybe 15 feet away, and caused me to jump when I heard it. It came from behind me and to my right, and then it moved around the fringes of my camp, remaining out of sight. And this went on for at least an hour until it sounded like it, or he, went down the hill toward the lake. It was over 20 years before I told anybody about my experience in the woods that day. I still haven't told my family. They already think I'm getting weird in my old age, so they already think I'm getting weird in my old age. As it is so, I'll be damned if I'm going to add fuel to that fire. I do have a question for you though. What do you think of Les Stroud? I'm not a big fan of his survival advice, but what I've seen of his Bigfoot coverage seems to be candid and honest. I realize that he still has an audience to play to, but listening to him, he at least admits to what he doesn't know. Just curious. Sorry that this turned into a book, and I thank you for what you're doing on the subject. Hearing all of these other people's experiences helps to convince me that I'm not as batshit crazy as some folks after all. I still love to hunt and fish, but I'm afraid that I'm not physically up to much more than sitting in a stand nowadays. Back when I was still physically able, I hunted central Idaho around headquarters for elk and bear. And man, do I miss it. That is incredible country. God bless you and yours, and have a Merry Christmas. I'm not supposed to say your name, right? Gotcha. How was that for an experience, you guys? Holy shit. And he stayed. But then again, from what sounds like his career, he's got a big set on him. You know what I mean? Now, where you were, roughly, you put me right there where you were. So all I can say on that position is, if you went to the east, not too much farther, but far enough, is where I sat on the porch of my friend's cabin with him. Remember that a couple years ago? And also, from where I believe you were, if you went to the northeast of there, is roughly where the logger reported cutting into the tree and finding the huge, giant, smelly corpse inside the tree, is just to the northeast of where you were. And then the forestry and the RCMP came. They shut down the logging there, and then they dug the road up and they put a gate. There you go. Clearwater. I hunted Clearwater a lot years back. I'm very familiar with the Clearwater River and those mountains. And I know of one guy, I know a friend of mine, he was hunting Clearwater, and he said he got out of the truck, started going for the evening hunt, so it would have been after afternoon, and started to work his way across a logged off area to get into the timber for the evening hunt, and something growled at him and scared the shit out of me. He turned around and ran back to the truck. Oh, and just on the north side of Clearwater River, and well, not just the north side, but basically the same country, okay, is where my old girlfriend had that one loping beside the car looking in the window. Not too much further up the highway from there. There you go. And I always hate it when, I don't hate it, but it's like when people ask you, what do you think of so-and-so? You know what I mean? Because I always tell everybody, there's nothing worse than people jumping on bandwagons. You know what I mean? It's like, figure shit out for yourself. Everybody knows, the answers to almost all questions in your gut. And I've had people allegedly dislike me because so-and-so doesn't like me or something. You know what I mean? Like people jumping on a bandwagon when they don't even know you. So that's why I'm somewhat hesitant when people ask my take on, but all I can say is this. So I agree with you on the survival skills that he used in almost all the shows. It made all of us laugh if we ever did watch a show. But the bottom line is, and this isn't saying anything bad, I'm quite sure he fully admits it. He was looking for a way to create a reality TV show. So there you go. And you know what I mean? It doesn't matter who you are. When you know or seen somebody who wants to be on a reality TV show or trying to come up with a gimmick that's going to work on television, there you go. What more do you need said? That's just for me. This is the way I feel about things, right? So, I had 3, maybe 4 offers from the same. I guess most of the reality TV shows are produced from some UK outfit. They got a hold of me a few times asking me if I wanted to do something. And then finally, and a few different people from the same place emailed me. One guy emailed me a question about something, then he goes, oh, and by the way, I suppose you wouldn't want to be involved in reality TV. And I'm like, do you think, for me, as soon as I come across anyone who wants to be followed, wants to be in the lens, wants to be in a reality TV show, calls themselves a celebrity, you can't turn me off in a more effective way. I'm out. See ya. Good luck to you. But stay away from me. What I've found over the years is those people are out to lunch. That's just me. Maybe I had the bad roll of the dice, but believe me, I've guided a lot of people over the years. They had to be in front of a camera. I see what goes on. I see how they're built and what they're made of, and it's not attractive in any way. There you go. And furthermore, yeah. Let me put it this way. What would my friends here at my coffee table, what would you guys want to do to me tomorrow morning if I woke up and went, hey, quick note, you guys, I'm going to do this little Kickstarter. I need maybe, could you guys give me $250,000? I'm going to make a video for you. I would hope that you guys would all kick me in the nuts as hard as you could when it comes to this topic at this stage of the game, right? Like another effing video created, keeping people guessing and wondering, is going to do shit for the subject. We're way beyond that. We are way beyond that now. Here. We need some big answers. Big questions answered. Why are we not publicly told about this? Why are we being so misled in the education system, as shown to us in this video from a previous person who wrote in, right? Changed everything. As soon as that person who was looking at a career in biology got slapped in the face with reality, changed everything, which it should, because everything's a farce, right? Everything's a farce. We need those questions answered. We don't need another fucking movie or video made of people trying to, if you look at what happened here, and then, you can't explain that, and how do you explain this, and what about that, what about this, then there's those footprints, and then there's the gate and the dermal ridges. Holy shit, enough already. Get beyond it. Or, I guess if that's what you need to do to make yourself some more money, have at it. But I got no time for it. Zero. Zero. There's no more I hope I'm making sense to you guys. But do you know what I mean, you guys, at this stage of the game, come on, would you just get past the bullshit and get on with it and quit staying back there and keeping all the people that watch you back there with you, going in circles and circles and circles and circles and circles. Well, I can't really say for sure, but it sure is looking like something's out there. Let's have a look at the evidence again. Holy shit. Good God, there's only one or two reasons people continue to do that. Number one is to maintain people watching you and putting money in your fucking pocket. Or number two, you're about as smart as a stick. That's the only two reasons people continue to do that bullshit, as far as I'm concerned. Right? And all that bullshit does is fuel people to go in a circle, do not go past go, and keep it a mystery and just keep haggling back and forth whether or not it's real. Holy fuck. Fuck me. Yeah, I said the F-bomb. Oops. Don't forget about the fine print on this channel. If you have it in you to be offended in any way, you're not safe here, right? Remember? But anyway, there you go. I'm going to get on with it, and I'm going to get all my gear ready to go. I'm going to try the 360 camera out under the boat this weekend. I'll share that results right away. I got to climb up on the roof of the shop. I got to pull my Starlink dish down to bring out to the boat. Get all my camera stuff. Remember the cordless mic. Right? And keep moving forward. Now, here's a question I have for everyone that I would love to read about. Okay? Is goals. You know, talking yesterday about, I'm done with the emails, by the way, if I piss you off when I talk about other things. I'm done with the emails for that small, the number of people here that I make angry daily. But anyway, what goals do you have? You guys got goals? You got goals that you want to smash? I want to read them. I want to know what you have. What do you have in the way of goals that you want to smash? I don't give a shit what the topic is. I just want to hear it because I love hearing that because I feel there's a lack of it today. In this circle of people that I stay in contact with personally, not too many have any big bright goals on the horizon. It's kind of frustrating and weird for me to realize that as I'm curious about it, especially after mentioning yesterday that basically almost right about now is to the point kids in school are talking or asking each other blatantly, what fast food place does your grandparents work at? Ugh, that's so gross. It's just so gross to realize that. You know what I mean? Ugh. What was being raised by an iPad like for you? You know, anyways, I'll stop right there. But all I'm saying is, what kind of goals do you guys have? Could it be, I don't know, a hunting trip? A fish you want to catch? Getting in shape? I guess a financial goal, whatever. A goal in actual true knowledge, you know? You have a goal of changing something in the world, whatever. I don't give a shit, anything. I just want to hear how many of you out there are goal-driven right now, and you've got some goal that you've been working on, and you're not going to quit until you smash the shit out of it. I would love to hear it. Love it. And I'd love to have everyone else read those too. You know what I mean? And that'll help motivate people in a good direction. What is your goal, and are you goal-driven? I don't give a shit what the goal is. There's no goal better or less than another. So please, please, please tell me what goals you're working on. Writing a book, I don't know, anything. I just want to hear it. I want to hear that there's people out there trying to smash shit out of something for their time of life instead of just trying to survive this shit show that society's been molded into. Because I believe if we have a whole pile of people in our community trying to smash the shit out of goals, we have a whole pile of good and hope coming our way too, right? I'm babbling. Excuse me, I'm still burping up my breakfast. Rude. There's my sunglasses. Can't forget those. Put those beside my cordless mic. All right, so will you see me? I think we might stop along the way in the woods and let Chippy go muck around on a river, maybe find an elk for him to look at or something. And I just may take some more photographs of him in the outdoors. And when we get back, though, just for the heads up, what we're going to do with Chippy, once I get back, we're going to saddle up a horse, We already got him a cool little plaid shirt and some boots and jeans. Can't find him a proper fitting cowboy hat, but I got one right here. We might be able to thunk on him somehow. I don't know. And I'm going to put the rifle scabbard on the saddle, put a rifle in it. I got a rope for roping. I'm going to put the rope on the saddle and get him all cowboyed up. Put a little bedroll in the back saddle and take some pictures of the Junior Ranger Chippy for his next volley competition. For the next Junior Ranger, I guess, whatever it is. I'm not familiar with this Junior Ranger thing at all myself, but appreciate all the people voting for our little Chippy. He's such a cute little shit. So that'll be the plan. Share my story at howtohunt.com. I want to hear it. Sure do appreciate that. The last man that emailed in, I appreciate you, man. I'm glad you got to see all those woods. What a treat, being able to go back in those woods and get in touch with the real world again. I'll bet that helped a lot. Helped me. A lot. Back later.